continuing with our notes from the Aztec software.
Sorry about that.
It's okay. Okay, basketball. Okay, software material review. Okay, so it's called Aztec. Okay, we were going over the graphs which are used to show data. Okay, so the types of graphs which could reflect two sets of data, etc., or how data relate to one another. So tables show how numbers relate to each other in rows and columns. Line graphs use two axes to show relationship between two sets of information, and they are good for showing change over time. So if you have more than one line, this shows a change in more than one type of data over time. Time is in the x-axis, horizontal axis. And these graphs, line graphs, make change or increase and decrease easy to see. The next kind of graph is a bar graph, which uses bars to show amount of one thing compared to the amount of another thing. Vertical bar graphs, so you have graphs running up and showing number values, and you could also have horizontal bar graphs, and in this case the graph runs sideways. And you could also have 3D, three-dimensional bar graphs. So the bars run either way, and for 3D, you show more complex comparisons and information. Another kind of graph is a plot graph, which shows clusters of data. Plot graph can also show change over time. And then clusters of data. And then pie charts or circle graphs show how a whole is divided. So the pie circle is 100%, and each slice is a part of that. If you have a color coding, the keys explain which color represents which set of data. In summary, graphs communicate information about data, statistics, or percentages, information about numbers changing over time, the amounts in different categories, or percentages that add up to 100% clearly. So graphs show numbers and amounts. In summary, tables show simple information and simple categories. An example is a bus schedule. Line graphs show relationship between two or more sets of information, showing often change over time. Example, the average monthly temperature from last year. Bar graphs show how many fall in each category. Example, how many people own each kind of car. Plot graphs show data clusters around certain points. Example, how often and how long each earthquake may last. And the pie chart or a circle graph shows a whole thing divided when total is 100%. For example, all the U.S. citizens and what percent votes how. And then, so yeah, what else? Graphs show messages clearly, and maps illustrate land masses or political borders. And diagrams show different parts of an item or a process. When reading, you should use scanning technique. You use this to find and to correct errors in spelling and grammar as well, and to examine documents or writing clearly, to identify the most important details. You should keep focused specifically on what you're looking for, content, or it may be grammar, punctuation, it may be dates or numbers, or even names. Um, so, so this section, which we're doing, is called language arts, and it includes reading, writing, speaking, listening, viewing. The different types of writing can be informational, nonfiction, or fiction. You should think about words in in these ways. Denotation is the literal or the main meaning of a word. For example, a chicken is a domestic bird kept for its eggs or meat, and the connotation is the feeling or the idea that the word suggests. Example, chicken is cowardly or scared. Connotation and the denotation. When you define a word, you give the definition and the history of the word. It can be denotation and connotation. Paraphrase, you restate or reword a text or passage, giving meaning in another form for clarity. Help make your writing more clear by paraphrasing instead of copying other material word for word. So restate or rewording. Interpret means to explain the meaning or the message of information, words, or events to add your own insights. Interpret. To analyze, to examine critically in order to bring out the essential elements. Or the messages or the ideas. To analyze means to make guesses about the meanings of literary texts, to use critical thinking to form an opinion, to develop an understanding of an idea. So, examine critically is to analyze. To infer means to make an educated guess or to form an idea using context clues to make educated guess about author's hidden message or film's meaning or discussions, interpretation, or even a speech's presentation. Infer. To evaluate means to determine whether something, a text or a film, etc., has significance or value. To determine what that value is. Example, a book review, making judgment or recommendation about something. So a review, giving an opinion on value of something, is to evaluate. To argue means to logically defend a position or to get a point across. So defend a position or get a point across is argue. Cite evidence in support of an idea, action, or a theory. Typically with the aim of persuading others to share one's view to fit. And you should defend your ideas and have details and evidence for this. Is to argue, and elaborate means to give more detail about a theory or an argument. So a nonfiction is a writing with ideas conveyed based on facts, real events, and real people, aka the real world, is nonfiction. Nonfiction includes like essays or expository writing. Expository writing is informational. It teaches about the natural and social world. And informational texts can be books, textbooks, articles in magazines, the internet, handouts, brochures. And expository writing informs, describes, explains an issue or things. It can be news reports, brochures, Wikipedia, term paper, textbooks. We'll continue in the next part. Thank you.